Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the channel. This is Red Dissection and we're here to analyze Manchester United's humiliating defeat at St James's Park against Newcastle 1-0. Just to state a fact, this wasn't just a single loss. It was actually 12 losses in one match, 11 on the pitch and one special loss in the dugout. As it states in the thumbnail, we're bodied, bloodied and bruised, completely ragdolled and dominated for 90 plus minutes. They had like more than 25 shots at our goal. And it's our running team. We can't seem to have any control in the match. The domination they had, it was ridiculous. It was like they were playing against a championship side. No, correct that. A League Two side. Coming to actual statistics, they had like 22 shots, so I may have overblown that to 25. But 22 is not a small number. They have like 4 or 5 clear chances. And if we're like 4-0 down at halftime, nobody could have complained. It was well deserved. And we got a raw linking, even though the scoreline don't suggest that. But we got a raw linking. It was only in the last 10 minutes when Newcastle United were out on the feet because of the PSG game in midweek. And they had no like substitutions. They had like 3 keepers on the bench. So they had no other alternative. They had to bring on Matt Ritchie and Dubravka for Nick Pope. So they literally had no more legs to put on the pitch. So obviously, in the end, they were defending deep, just not giving us any chance. We had a goal rule for offside, which is clear offside. And if Maguire wasn't there, I think the keeper would have saved it anyway. Reguilon has a shot which was clear off the line by the defender. But apart from that, we had nothing to offer in this game. It was only when Newcastle was zapped of any energy in their legs that we had any control on the ball. And it is disappointing, but it is something that we are familiar with, and nobody can be surprised with this humiliation at St James's Park. Coming to player ratings, Andre Onana was a clown in the goal. I mean, he didn't. I mean, you can't blame him for the goal that was conceded. That was down to defense, Luke Shaw, Wan-Bissaka, and the midfield. But he was clumsy. He was timid. He was weak. His distribution was all over the place. He was completely out of his depth. The clangers he's been dropping obviously has hit his confidence, and I don't see him recovering anytime soon. So that's a rating he'll probably get for more games to come. Aaron Wan-Bissaka was in an impossible situation. I mean, the embarrassment that Rashford is, he was literally playing 2 against 1 for the entirety of his stay on the pitch. He was clumsy on the ball and he made some rash tackles. I mean, Gordon gave him one of his toughest challenges. And on the goal as well, he went on his usual walkabouts. He completely lost his concentration, didn't track Gordon, and it was an easy tap in for Gordon. So he gets a low score as well. Harry Maguire is more of a captain now than he ever was when he had the armband. He was the only player in the first half with any kind of defense for his performance. In the second half, he became rash because he wanted to get the equalizer. He went and played up top for the last 5 or 6 minutes. I mean, he's a limited player. He doesn't have pace. He doesn't have that ability to play from the back under pressure. But with what he's got, he's doing his best, and you can't blame him for that. So he was United's man of the match. Luke Shaw is a fat coward, and he has been that for the entirety of his United career. He goes on little patches of form, but overall, he's just not good enough. In defense, he's clumsy. He can't be bothered. He can't run. Defensively, he's a liability. He can't run. He does have pace, but he doesn't want to run. He's just not fit enough. He cannot run down the wing for the entirety of 90 minutes. So playing a centre back is easier for him in terms of not having to run that much. But even there, he's always a mistake away, and he is just not good enough for Manchester United. Until we get rid of players like him, we're gonna keep seeing this kind of performance, especially looking forward to that game at Anfield on the 17th of this month, and we'll surely see Luke Shaw dropping one of these performances there as well. Diogo Dalot he's just Dalot. I mean, he's the same player that came to United under Jose Mourinho. He hasn't progressed. There is nothing in his play that gives you confidence. He's a terrible one-on-one defender. He is clumsy on the ball, even though he's a lot better than Wan-Bissaka in terms of delivery. But he's just not good enough for any kind of role in the first team. He's maybe a good option off the bench, but certainly not a starter. Scotty not so hotty. I mean, he was completely ragdoll, completely abused on the pitch by JOELINTON. He was literally in his pocket. And I've never seen a midfielder take on his counterpart. Like on every attempt, he was like goading him and made him a laughing stock. I mean, he was fumbling, rolling over his own ankles. I mean, it was just, it was merciless from JOELINTON. And he looked like a prime Yaya Toure, to be fair. McTominay, he doesn't belong here. Kobe Mano, I mean, what can I say about Mino? I mean, United missed their flight because it got cancelled. They took the bus, and I think they might as well have thrown him in front of that bus. He was lamb to slaughter. I mean, a young kid being thrown thrown with the wolves like that against JOELINTON, Bruno Guimaraes, as well as Louis Smiley, who had the better of him throughout the match. It wasn't a promising performance, but you can excuse the player for he's coming back from a long injury layoff, and he'll learn from this, I'm sure. And it wasn't a good performance, but it is to be expected when the team of so many experienced players is just not putting up any kind of challenge to the opposition. Everyone's favorite, Marcus Rashford. There are certain nicknames that people have given, and he keeps on delivering on those. He's completely rubbish. He can't be bothered in running back. He can't be bothered to even try to pretend that he cares. Obviously, he's not playing for the manager. You can see that. I mean, since his change of position, you can literally see him downing tools. I mean, on the left, he doesn't track back that often, but at least he, moves a bit just to pretend like he can be bothered. But over on the right flank in this match, particularly against somebody like Livramento and Gordon, who were bombing on, not giving any second to Wan-Bissaka to rest. I mean, he was completely exposed, and so was the manager. I mean, he waited till we conceded to sub him off. So manager should take the blame. I mean, Rashford's been doing that for years now. So even his performance, the lack of, I mean, I have to give him one because at least at least he was alive and still breathing on that pitch. So I have to give him something. But apart from that, he doesn't deserve anything. The captain invisible. I mean, he started out decently. I mean, he gave a couple of balls to Garnacho, and those were our only chances in the first half. But he's just not good enough for this team. I mean, we keep saying the same thing. It's like we become a broken record. But unless we get rid of a player like him, who are not good enough, physically he's not good enough, let alone technically. He's just not. He can't compete with his opponents in his position, like Guimaraes or JOELINTON or even Louis Smiley. He gets completely dominated in those positions. He can't track back, even though he made one good interception while running back. But he's a liability. I mean, he's the one who gives away the most amount of unforced errors, and he's the one who causes. We have conceded like 106 shots in the last 6 matches, and he must be involved in a lot of those. So he's not a captain. He's not a leader. He's not even good enough to be in this team, in this club. But he'll be there, and Ten Hag will die on that hill. Alejandro Garnacho, in the last 2 matches he scored. That was the saving grace for him. But even in those matches, he didn't play well. He wasn't nowhere near the standards that are expected, and he's just too raw and crude. I don't see him being the man. And it is just unfortunate that we don't have any kind of replacement for him. And he's the one who's been scoring goals for the last couple of matches. So he has to play, but I'm not expecting too much from him. And he's not showing any sign of living up to any kind of hype that United fans usually have for the homegrown players. So he gets the low score again. Anthony Martial, he had the graveyard shift. He had no chances, no kind of opportunity to attack the goal. He had one dribble which he made out of nothing, and got a free kick which Bruno wasted. So you can't help but be sorry for him. I mean, he's technically a lot better than Højlund is. Obviously, physically, Højlund has a lot more to him and to his game. But I like to see him start with Højlund, which I don't see that happening under this manager. So until the manager goes, I'm not gonna be too harsh with Martial. But he didn't get any service to try to change that in any way. Coming to substitutions, Anthony was certainly better than Rashford. I mean, he got a yellow card at least for trying to foul Livramento, at least put some kind of challenge to the marauding fullback, but he didn't offer much else apart from a shot that was correctly called offside. It would have been a good goal, but I think it would have been saved if Maguire wasn't in the way anyway. So he gets a low score as well. Rasmus Højlund continued on his poor run of form. He doesn't offer anything right now. Physically, also, he got dominated by Lascelles and Fabian Schär. And it's been happening far too often for my liking. I mean, his whole game is about pace and physical ability to hold opponents, on his back. But he's gone off the boil for the last 4 or 5 matches, and I'm sure that he'll start against Chelsea, but I would stick with Martial than Højlund. Amrabat was the best player in the last 10 minutes. He was good defensively, attacking wise. Obviously, he's not the most creative of the players, but he kept the ball well. And no wonder we had the most control in our match. Obviously, Newcastle were tired, but we had the most control in the last 10 minutes. So a lot of credit has to be given to him. Obviously, it remains to be seen whether he'll be kept beyond January. Finally, we need to see him in place of McTominay with Menu and start against Chelsea. Reguilon was another of those players who brought a lot more to the table than any of the 11 players that started. He was full of energy. He tried to give us attacking impetus. He had a shot on goal, which was dangerous as well. And he was consistent in terms of his effort. He was aggressive. And we know defensively he's not good enough. I mean, positionally and as a one-on-one defender, he's not good enough. He's like a better version of Dalo, but he is good at overlapping and putting balls in the box. And I think in the next match, if Shaw has to start because of his left-footedness, then Reguilon has to start in the left-back position for sure. Erik Ten Hag, he's a criminal. I have to say, he's a criminal in a stupid hat. I mean, he's a lot more obtuse than I thought he was. He's suddenly proven to be arrogant and egomaniac. The kind of tips he's taken on with his big earners. But with Rashford, he's gone completely opposite. I don't know what Rashford has on him, some kind of sensitive information. I'm not sure. Bruno, Rashford, Luke Shaw, these players he's been banking on for the last 18 months. And these are the players that have thrown other managers on the bus, and they're very consistent in that. They're really exceptionally gifted at making managers look bad. And when he keeps trusting these players and trying to stick with them, even though they have shown that they don't deserve that kind of trust, then the buck stops with the manager. He has to go. He has to be the one who takes the axe. And he got all the credit for Carabao Cup and becoming top three in a season. A lot of our competitors were just not up to it. So he has to take the blame for the downfall as well. I mean, we haven't seen any kind of philosophy, any kind of intensity, any kind of attacking balance. I mean, Eddie Howe has had, even though they've been taken over by PIF, they haven't had those big signings apart from Tonali. And Ten Hag has had his players coming in, even though for absurd amount of money for likes of Anthony, but they have been he has been backed, and the fact that he doesn't even start his own players, just I mean, it is only a team that starts from McTominay, Luke Shaw, Maguire. He also prefers Lindelof over Varane, Rashford, Bruno, Martial. Even he's a bald Ole. Ole had an excuse that he hadn't managed a big club. He has had experience with Ajax, even though they're not the biggest club anymore. But he has had that experience, and he has played in Champions League and done well. So to come here and not show any kind of ability to his own foibles, to his own ludicrous selections and judgment calls, he has to take the X. He has to go. United haven't had an away victory at a top six team since October 2021. That's more than 2 years. That's a damning fact. That's a damning fact. And we still have to play West Ham. We still have to play Liverpool, Aston Villa, teams who have troubled us historically and under Ten Hag. So I dread to imagine what's going to happen to our team when we go to Anfield or to the London Stadium or play against Aston Villa. I just shudder at the thought of seeing that and to witness that kind of atrocity on this beloved club of ours. Allahu Alim, I mean, who knows what happens in the future, but I think the Anfield game will be important. We have Bayern Munich before that in the same week. So in a space of few days, we might have like conceded 15, 20 goals and been dumped out of Europe and have no chance of getting that top four position. So it might be nearing the fact that Ten Hag might not see Christmas with Manchester United. And to be sure, I think it is well deserved. I think he's overstayed his welcome anyway. He hasn't brought any kind of nows, any kind of improvement and enhancement in our play. The players are worse off. The players need to go as well. Don't get me wrong. I mean, people like Rashford, Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, Bruno Fernandes, who've been here and who've been here under a few managers. They need to go as well. And we need to remove the deadwood, the dross. But manager is a big part of that. And players he has brought have had a mixed bag. But there are players like Casemiro and Varane and the likes of Ronaldo and Sancho who have exposed the kind of obstinacy and lack of self-awareness that this man has, and he's just too small a man for this big of a club, and he needs to go. Obviously, we'll have a match in midweek against Chelsea, and I think against Bournemouth. I think on the weekend. I'm not too sure about that, but we will be back. Bringing all the analysis and preview of the two fixtures. Join us for the Red Prep for Chelsea. And keep sharing the video, keep commenting, keep liking them. Jazakallah khair, and thank you for promoting and supporting our work till now. So until we meet again, take care, do good. Assalamu alaikum.